Hello, dear students. I welcome you to this English class. Today, let's continue with chapter number 6, Brown Wolf, written by Jack London. Students, you remember we have covered a little bit in part A. I hope you have watched the video Brown Wolf part A. So, today, let's continue with part B. Let's get started. Brown Wolf by Jack London, part B. Before we continue, let's do a quick recap of what we have covered in part A. Students, do you remember? There's this dog who is lost. He's searching for his master's house and is wandering around. And finally, he comes at the cottage of Walt and Madge. Walt and Madge are kind enough to allow him to stay at their cottage. They feed him, they take care of him, and they're trying to be friendly. But the dog does not respond to their kind gestures. They name him as Wolf because his color resembles that of a wolf. The dog tries many attempts to go in search of his master's house, but then he fails. And each time he goes, Walt again gets him back. And finally, he puts a metal plate bearing his name and cottage address around his neck, so that if people find the dog, they could bring him back to the cottage. After many such attempts, futile means unsuccessful attempts, finally the dog decides to stay at the cottage. And then slowly he opens up and he becomes friendly with them and he allows them to touch him, and this for them is a great victory because he doesn't allow anyone to touch him except Walt and Madge, while as for others he snarls and growls. So students, that is the story so far. So let's continue and see what happens further. Let's read. As Walt and Madge walked along the country road one morning, with Wolf trailing behind, they heard a crunching of heavy feet. A few minutes later, a man came into view around the turn of the trail. "Warm day," Walt greeted him. The man paused and nodded. "I guess I ain't used much to the warm," he said, half apologetically. "I'm more accustomed to zero weather." "You don't find any of this in this country," Walt laughed. "Should say not," the man answered. "And I ain't here a-looking for it either. I'm trying to find my sister. Maybe you know where she lives. Her name's Johnson, Mrs. William Johnson." So children, as once they're walking on the road, country road, that is Walt, Madge and the dog, whom they have named as Wolf, as they're walking along the country road, they hear somebody coming from behind, a stranger, and so Walt greets him. He greets him as warm day. That means he wishes him a warm day. Well, the man says that he is not much used to the warm. He prefers cold weather. Zero weather means cold weather, where the temperature is 0 degrees or below zero. Then they ask whether he's come for the warmth. He says he's not come for the warm weather, but in fact he's come in search of his sister, whose name is Mrs. William Johnson. Meanings, children read. Accustomed means used to. Zero weather means very cold weather. Below 0 degree, 0 or below 0 degree temperature. Let's read further. "Should say not," the man answered. "I ain't here looking for it either. I'm trying to find my sister. Maybe you know where she lives. Her name's Johnson, Mrs. William Johnson." "You're not a Klondike brother?" Madge cried, her eyes bright with interest. "About whom we have heard so much." "Yes, I am. That's me," he answered. "My name's Miller, Skiff Miller. I just thought I'd surprise her." "You are on the right track then," Madge pointed down the hill. Take the little trail turning off to the right. It's a shortcut to her house. You can't miss it. Yes, thank you, ma'am, he said. So now, student, what happens is Madge, when she hears that he's looking for his sister, Mrs. William Johnson, her eyes brighten with interest because she knows Mrs. William Johnson, and she's also heard of her brother a lot. So then she asks, "Oh, so you're Miss William Johnson's brother? So then you're on the right track. That means you are very close to her house." And then she gives him the directions to her house. She helps him, she guides him with the directions so that he can reach his sister's house. And then he thanks her. Let's read. It was at the juncture that Wolf, who had been walking a little away from them, nosing through the bushes, trotted into view. Skiff Miller saw the dog, and a look of great wonder came onto his face. "Well, well," he said slowly. At the sound of his voice, Wolf's ears flattened down, and his mouth opened in a laugh. He trotted up to the stranger and first smelled his hands, then licked them with his tongue. Madge was amazed. We never saw Wolf make up to a stranger before. Now, as the three were talking, Wolf was just by himself going around the bushes. But the moment he hears the stranger's voice, he comes there, and then Skiff Miller spots the dog and is amazed. There's a wonder on his face. And well, he says. That time Wolf hears his voice and he suddenly gets alerted, and he smiles. The dog smiles. His mouth open in a laugh means he acknowledges him. Okay, he's happy to see the stranger, and he goes towards the stranger, smells his hand and licks his hands with his tongue. So that means he's trying to be friendly with the stranger, probably has recognized him. So Madge is very surprised because he has never been friendly to a stranger before, never been friendly with a stranger before. So she's surprised. We never saw Wolf make up to a stranger before. Make up to means friendly. Let's see the meanings. At this juncture means at this point. Trotted is walked fast. Make up to means to be friendly. Let's read further. "Is that what you call him, Wolf?" the man asked. He lifted one of Wolf's forelegs and exclaimed and examined the footpads, pressing them. "Kind of soft," he remarked. "He ain't been on trail for a long time." He turned to Madge and Walt and asked, "How long have you had him?" So now the stranger tries to respond to the dog's friendly gestures, and then he tries to examine his forelegs. Forelegs means front legs. And then he looks at his paws and the footpads that is below the paws, the front legs, and he says that they are very soft. So that means he has not been on that country road for a long time. Okay, so then he asks Madge and Walt since how long the dog has been with them. Let's take the meanings. And ain't been means hasn't been. Forelegs is front legs. Let's read further. But just then the dog, squirming and rubbing against the newcomer's legs, opened his mouth and barked. Walt and Madge stared at each other. The miracle had happened. Wolf had barked. "It's the first time he ever barked," Madge said. "First time I ever heard him, too," Miller added. Madge smiled at him. The man was evidently a humorist. "Of course," she said, "since you have only seen him for a few minutes." Skiff Miller looked at her sharply. "I thought you understood," he said slowly. "I thought you understood that he is my dog. His name isn't Wolf, it's Brown." "How do you know is your dog?" Walt demanded. "Because he is," was the reply. So children, now the dog is trying to be very comfortable with a Skiff Miller, with a stranger. He's trying to be very friendly with them. And then he opened his mouth and barked. Now remember in part A, it was mentioned that he never barked at anybody, only growled and snarled. Okay, so here first time he barks at the stranger. That means he has recognized the stranger and he remembers him, or he is trying to be friendly. So Walt and Madge are very surprised that it is a miracle that has happened, that he has barked. So Madge says it's the first time that he has barked. So then later Skiff Miller tells that it is because it is his own dog and his name is not Wolf but it is Brown. So then Walt is very upset. He says, how do you know is your dog? Because by now Walt and Madge have become very friendly with the dog. They have started liking him and they want him forever. So now suddenly when Skiff Miller says that it is his dog, so Walt suddenly interrupts and says, how do you know he is your dog? So then the stranger replies, because he is my dog, because he is. Let's take the meaning. Squirming means wriggling. Humorist means one who makes others laugh. Okay, let's read further. Para 32. Skiff Miller turned to the dog. Brown. His voice rang out sharply, and at the sound the dog's ears flattened down. Gee. The dog made a swinging turn to the right. Now mush on. And the dog ceased his swing abruptly and stared straight ahead, halting obediently at the command. Skiff Miller smiled proudly. He was my lead dog. So children, did you understand this paragraph? Now Skiff Miller wants to prove that that dog is his own dog. Because when Walt demands, how do you know is your dog? Now he wants to prove that the dog actually belongs to him. So now he is giving him some commands. Probably he has taught him some commands earlier, okay, when he was staying with him. So then now he calls out Brown. The moment he says that, the dog's ears flatten. That means he is showing response. Then when he says Gee, he makes a swinging turn to the right. And when Skiff Miller says mush on, then the dog ceases, means stops his swing abruptly and looks straight ahead, halting obediently at the command. That means he's following every command that Skiff Miller is giving him. Okay, so by this he wants to prove that he is his dog. Skiff Miller then proudly says that he was my lead dog. You know what's the meaning of lead dog? A dog that leads a team of dogs. Children, if you have seen in the snow, there's a sledge where a team of dogs, they pull the sledge, and then there's one or there are team of dogs that are walking, and then there's one leader dog who guides the entire team of dogs. So this particular dog, whom Skiff Miller calls Brown, was his lead dog. Okay, let's take the meanings. Abruptly means suddenly. Mush on means stop. Lead dog means a dog that leads a team of dogs. So children, we have completed part B. Let's take the summary notes. Few points. While Walt and Madge walked along the country road, they met a stranger called as Skiff Miller. Skiff Miller had come in search of his sister, Mrs. William Johnson. Skiff Miller had come in search of his sister, Mrs. William Johnson. The dog became friendly with Skiff Miller. Yes, true or false? Yes, it's true. Next, the dog obeyed Skiff Miller's commands, and this proved that he belonged to Skiff Miller. So these are certain points. Students, thank you for watching the video. Take care and God bless you all. Thank you.